With the release of the new Elvis biopic starring Austin Butler, adds yet another movie to the recent collection of music biopics. If you don't know what music biopics are, it's really simple. Biopics based on musicians. For example, Walk the Line is based off the life of Johnny Cash, Ray is based off the life of Ray Charles. Very easy to remember. Most people love these movies, including me. And when you think about it, they're actually a clever way of getting more people who love these musicians into the cinema. Cause who doesn't like Elvis? But these movies as of recent have been releasing at an insanely fast rate. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. As I said, I actually like a majority of these movies. So instead of complaining about movies, which is something I seem to do quite a lot on this channel, I'm going to go through these movies in order they came out, give my opinions on them, if they were liked by audiences at the time, and did it do anything positive or negative for this genre. So, without further ado, let's start off by going back to the year 2015, where we got our first biopic in this short timeline, about the famous rap group NWA.
Yo, Drake, what up? I got something to say.
The reason why I say Straight Outta Compton is the start of this trend is because, to me, this is the first music biopic that a good majority of people saw, and had an impact on pop culture, even though it was a tiny dent on pop culture. For example, did anyone even know there was a James Brown biopic the year before called Get On Up? Some of you watching this will have probably never heard of it. I am getting a bit off topic, but I hope that kind of explains why I'm starting with this. Anyway, what do I think of Straight Outta Compton? Well, I think it's good. Just good. The reason I say that is because out of the 4 films I'm going to talk about, Straight Outta Compton is the film I probably have the least to say. I just think some parts of the film are forgettable. Like, can anyone remember what happens after all the members of the group get introduced to the audience? I know I can't. The cast does a fine job, except Paul Giamatti. The cinematography is fine, the editing's fine. There's just nothing for me to point out and say, that's good or that's bad. There's cameos, if you can call them cameos, from quite a few notable people from the rap industry in the 90s, but none of them except Suge Knight impacted the plot. Although one thing I can remember that this movie handled pretty well was Eazy-E's death. I thought it was well handled, very respectful, and it gave us a good conclusion to this movie. And that's pretty much it. Judging by critics at the time, they seemed to like it, so at least I can say I'm in the majority. It did relatively fine at the box office, and did manage to get an Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay. It didn't win if you were wondering. So overall, it didn't do too much for the genre, and I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Now, for the next music biopic, we go 3 years into the future, about a tiny band. You may have heard of them. They're called Princess. I'm sorry to anyone who hurt themselves as a result of that joke. If you're thinking about suing me, please don't. I can't afford a lawyer. Thank you.
Be quiet. This is the Queen. Bro, be quiet. Where's the Queen at? Where's the Queen?
But yeah, Queen was the next band, / artist, / singer, / whatever else there is, to get a biopic in 2018's Bohemian Rhapsody. This was the first one out of these films I saw in the cinemas, and from then on, I've seen the films I will mention later in cinemas as well. So Bohemian Rhapsody. What else can I add to this film that hasn't already been said? Rami Malek gives a great performance and deserved his Best Actor Oscar. The sound design is fine, but if your film is literally a music biopic, then I'm sorry, but it should be a lot better. All the other actors, just like Straight Outta Compton, are fine, but unlike Straight Outta Compton, Rami Malek outshines the other actors. Also, the parts where there are songs and the Wayne's World reference were alright, I guess. Now, the negatives, and there's a few. The editing is, no joke, one of the worst edited films I've ever seen. There's so many scenes where there's too many fast takes, and times where there's a new shot of something unnecessary. Oh well, it's not like this aspect of filmmaking got any awards. I mean, who actually thought this was well made? Anyway, there's so many times in the movie when the band just makes a song up on the spot in the studio. Didn't they write a song anywhere else? Like, in a house, or at a park, or on a bus, which is where I'm writing this script right now. It gets repetitive and cliche very quickly. The amount of times this film lies to you is a lot, but at the same time, doesn't really change my viewing experience. This is a movie that only Queen fans are gonna grab onto, and there's purely the reason why I don't hate it. I like Queen, so I think that's why I don't dislike it. But the audience, on the other hand, they absolutely loved it. It's about time that I should admit that at the time I saw Bohemian Rhapsody, I rated it a 9 out of 10. What was I thinking? Not only did critics rate it very highly, it's also, if I'm correct, the highest grossing biopic of all time. There's still hope for Elvis. It also got 5 Oscar nominations, which is a bit too much, and won 4 somehow. So overall, Bohemian Rhapsody put this genre into the stratosphere, and pretty much made this genre what it is today. But as a film, 5 out of 10. After its release, it seemed that everyone wanted a biopic on their favourite musician. Didn't matter the quality or how much they tweaked it. Quite a few biopics were planned not long after Bohemian Rhapsody's release, which is what led us to here.
Rocket Man should have been handled a long time ago.
Not even 1 year later, we got Rocket Man, the biopic on Elton John. The one thing that sets this out from the others is that this is a musical, which is exactly why I don't like it. I dislike musicals. I don't hate them, it's just musicals and biopics are just such a bad combination. The parts in musicals where there's singing and dancing just takes me out of the film. So imagine that mixed with a biopic where I'm trying to learn what's going on in someone's life. The story was all over the place as a result of this, which only hurt my viewing experience. As much as I've criticised this film, there was some positives, like how the costume designs were very well made and accurate, Taron Egerton's great performance, and how it's probably the most realistic depiction of a musician's life out of these 4. If you like this movie, fine. I am definitely the odd one out here. Critics seem to really like it. It got a box office turnout similar to Straight Outta Compton, and it did get an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song, which it won. So overall, I do not like Rocket Man. Like Straight Outta Compton, it didn't do much for the genre, and musicals and biopics do not work together, so 3.5 out of 10. One last thing about musical biopics, I'm kinda glad that Respect, based off Aretha Franklin, and another musical biopic, flopped. It just showed that these type of movies weren't popular, and the fact that it flopped and no one talks about it, which is why I'm not including it in this video, just speaks the facts. So that leaves us with the most recent biopic, releasing only a few months ago. It was originally going to come out summer last year, but didn't because of certain world events. But yeah, it's finally here, and a good majority of people have gave their opinions already. But as Gru from Despicable Me once said,
Okay, my turn.
Excuse me, I have to use the bathroom.
Elvis is the only one of these movies where the title isn't named after the musician's most well-known song. That's already a gold star for originality. Elvis is just an absolute roller coaster from start to finish. This film drains your energy, but that's something that I love. People being complaining about this, but personally, I don't get it. The way I see it is, would you rather have a film that bores you to death, or would you rather have a film that is full of energy? I know which one I'd pick. Another thing that's full of energy is Austin Butler's performance. He nailed everything about Elvis, from his voice to his dance moves. He should definitely get an Oscar nomination, and if he won, I wouldn't have a problem with that. The editing is all over the place, a bit like Bohemian Rhapsody's, but what makes this acceptable is that it fits really well with the fast pace and how energy draining the film is. The colour correction fits really well, starting off with golden bright colours, then when something bad happens the colours get increasingly darker, but when there are happy bits, like Elvis's comeback scene, for a brief moment the colours are bright, before returning to darker shades. However, one thing that really bugged me about Elvis is its soundtrack. It uses remixes of Elvis's songs that I think were used specifically for this film, and they just took me out of the film. That's a massive reason why I thought the first hour was kind of average, and the rest of the film was great. Another problem with the film was Tom Hanks's performance. He plays Colonel Parker fine, it's just the accent he's putting on which is the problem. In the beginning, I thought I could tolerate it, but after about 30 minutes, I got extremely annoyed every time he spoke. And that's pretty much all I have to say. From what I've seen, critics really seem to like it. I can't really comment on its box office report yet, but from what I've read, it's already made more than Straight Outta Compton and Rocket Man. Plus, I think it's the best out of these modern music biopics, and it's done quite a bit for the genre. I'm not sure if it was as big of an impact as Bohemian Rhapsody, but still. So that's why I give it a solid 7 out of 10. And now we're up to date. If any of you are gutted that you're not going to get another music biopic for a while, well, you couldn't be more wrong. The amount of biopics that are currently in the works is unreal. There's going to be a Bob Marley biopic, a Madonna biopic, a Michael Jackson biopic, an Amy Winehouse biopic, a Bee Gees biopic, and that's only like a third of the biopics that are currently in the works. And on top of that, I haven't even mentioned that there's going to be another biopic coming out later this year about Whitney Houston called I Wanna Dance With Somebody. At least the tradition of naming the biopic after the musician's most well-known song lives on. So, as I said earlier on, yes, these biopics are coming out at an extremely fast rate. And honestly, I don't know if I mentioned this before, I don't have a problem with them, as long as they don't become huge blockbusters like the Marvel movies. But I do think these movies should avoid one small thing. Don't make them musical.